Hi gamers! Are you new to Final Fantasy XIV? Or are you approaching your first dungeon and are anxious about grouping with other people and want some tips? Either way, I gotcha. Here's an introduction to partying and the Duty Finder made for gamers with zero to no previous party experience. Let's get to it. This is the Duty Finder. For most of your partying in Final Fantasy XIV with other people, you'll be using this to enter dungeons, raids, and other instant content. You can adjust the settings here. Joining a party in progress will allow you to fill a vacancy in the middle of a currently running instance. This means, if you're waiting in queue for the Praetorium and someone who is already running that dungeon had to leave in an emergency, if you have this box selected, you could be chosen to fill in that spot. You will enter the dungeon in a solo commencement and will help the party resume their fight. You won't get experience for bosses already killed, but you will get credit for completing the dungeon if it is your first time, and full reward for doing so. This is particularly helpful for doing daily roulettes, in which the reward can be obtained far quicker this way. There's nothing like joining a party in progress on the very last boss. An unrestricted party will allow you to enter content at your current level and with a smaller than usual party, or solo, or with Blue Mage, which can't enter a dungeon under normal circumstances. In this case, you get no experience from monsters and can't gain progress towards spirit bonding, but you can solo content to get through it quickly, learn Blue Mage spells, or rerun a dungeon multiple times for a particular piece of armor, so it definitely has its uses. If someone suggests to run something unsynced, this is the option they want you to turn on. Minimum eye level and silence echo are about making content more difficult. People may want to try this for the challenge or a feeling of nostalgia, as it simulates how difficult the fight might have been when it was first released. But outside of this, these options aren't something you'll want to turn on. Explorer mode allows you to enter the dungeon without any foes inside to take pictures or to get to know it better. It's just kind of a glamour feature. And limited leveling roulette is a feature available for pre-formed parties that allows you to complete the daily leveling roulette but have the random dungeon selected be no more than 8 levels below the lowest member of the party. If you are the party leader in a pre-formed party, you can select a specialized loot rule option. And finally, you can select which languages you are willing to party with. If you would like faster queue times, select as many languages as you are comfortable with to potentially be matched with a greater number of people. However, if you are going to do so, I recommend you either be comfortable using the auto-translate function or have a moderate amount of knowledge in the languages you select. It's important to be able to communicate with your party members. Once you confirm your options, your choice will display at the top over here. Below that are the categories you can select when registering for an instance. The first tab is roulettes. These offer a once per day bonus for completing random content. Secondly, is dungeons from all previous expansions, in this case A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers. Expand each tab to see a list of dungeons you have available. Dungeons with a green check mark in the corner here are ones that you have already completed. The next tab will always be the dungeons from the current expansion. The next tab is guild tests. And then you have trials from previous expansions, trials from the current expansion, raids from previous expansions, raids from the current expansion, PvP zones, and finally gold saucer zones. For non-randomly selected content, you can select up to 5 different dungeons to queue for at one time, and you'll be entered into the first with a vacancy. For roulettes and some other content, you will only be allowed to select a single option. The number beside the level, in this case 0, will show you if there are any parties recruiting in Party Finder for this instance. We'll have to go into the Party Finder in another video. Once you've set your options and selected your instance and confirmed, you will officially be in queue. A duty status window will pop up to let you know approximately how long you can expect to wait for a position in line. After about 1 to 2 minutes, you'll be shown your role waiting position to let you know how many people with your role are ahead of you in line. In this case, I'm the 6th DPS waiting in line to join a 50, 60, 70, 80 roulette. You can drop out of queue if you would like to at this point, anytime before the commencement box pops with no penalty. But if you cancel when it does pop or leave the dungeon too soon, you'll be given a penalty which may impact your ability to join content for a time. FYI, as a warning, sometimes queues instant pop for roles like healer and tank, so you might not get the opportunity, so be careful when you click. When you zone in, you'll be placed in a bubble to wait until all party members are in the zone and have finished watching the cutscene. There is an option to turn off watching cutscenes that you have already seen in Character Config tab. Just go here. It's considered polite to use this time to say hi to your party. You can also let them know if it is your first time or if you aren't very confident in your current role, i.e., it's my first time tanking this. The party usually waits for the tank to begin before following behind. It is the tank's job to get enmity, or hate, of the monsters to protect the party from their wrathful rage. They will usually do this by using an AoE attack to hit all the monsters around them as they run through the dungeon. Unlike in duty support, a human tank will often pull multiple groups of monsters before stopping. It is the tank's responsibility to gauge the comfort level of the healer and to not overpull. You can assist the tank by only hitting monsters that they have already gained enmity on, and by staying behind them in the dungeon so you don't accidentally pull something else. Healers are responsible for keeping the party alive and for contributing damage. Focus on healing when you have to, i.e. at the start of a large pull. And then as the tank begins taking less damage, switch to some AoE spells to help burn the monsters down more quickly. Healers can also remove some debuffs, called enfeeblements, on the party with Asuna. Debuffs on your party window are the red markers facing upside down compared to the enhancements, and you can usually tell which ones can be removed by the white bar at the top of them. You can help your healer out by avoiding AoE attacks as best you can and reducing any avoidable damage, i.e. don't stand in the goo. Your job is to kill everything the tank pulls as quickly as possible. You're a healer too, in as much as you prevent damage by making things dead. Use your AoE or multi-hit attacks in large groups, once you're high enough level to have them, and make sure you are paying attention to your abilities and using every tool in your kit. Avoid excess damage and you're good. A tank will help the DPS out by keeping the enemies facing away from them the best they can. This will reduce the amount of running around a DPS has to do in order to avoid damage, but will also allow them to more easily meet any positionals required for their attacks. Positionals are attacks that do additional damage if you are at a monster's back or flank. This box here shows the current enmity of the monsters you have attacked. Red means they are actively trying to kill you, but this degrades through orange, yellow, and finally to teal, which means you are safe, for now, from their attention. A tank wants to see all red, and a healer all teal. Each dungeon is laid out pretty much the same way, with few exceptions. It will start with groups of monsters called trash, which will lead to boss number 1, then more trash before boss number 2, and then more trash before boss number 3. You won't find your first treasure chest until after you kill the first boss, and then you will find one in their boss room, and periodically throughout the dungeon after that point, with guaranteed chests after defeating bosses 2 and 3. Bosses each have their own mechanics, or gimmicks, to make the fight memorable and unique. You could be afraid to run a dungeon for the first time without knowing these special rules because you aren't sure of what to expect. But if your party knows you are new, either because you told them when you introduced yourself or because you watched the cutscene when you entered, they will sometimes tell you what you need to know. If not, you can ask if there's anything you need to know prior to the boss, or failing that, you can fake it till you make it. Final Fantasy XIV has been evolving over the last few years, and now they have gotten much better at using the same AoE symbols to mean the same thing most of the time. You know when to stack for a stack marker. You know when to run away from a proximity marker. And a general rule is to kill the ads ASAP. If you want to feel comfortable before running a particular dungeon, you can watch a guide on YouTube before you register. I'm working on creating short, concise guides for this very reason. Or you can pull up a website guide. But honestly, you sometimes learn best by failing. If you're new to a particular mechanic, you might not do it right, and you'll take damage, and you'll probably figure out how it's supposed to be done, or a party member will offer some help. There is no reason to be embarrassed about this. 100% everyone has done it. The chests I mentioned before, go ahead and knead on something if it's for your class and it could help you, or if it's a mount or minion or equestrian role that you don't have for your collection. Greed on everything else. If you already have a unique item in your possession, you'll be forced to select pass. If you win the roll on an item and don't have room in your inventory, that item will be lost, so make sure you keep several open slots available for the last chest. In Dungeon, the limit break will always be used by the DPS, as it will not go past level 2. Melee DPS will use it for bosses, in particular the LB2 for the final boss when it gets under about 10 to 15%. And sometimes magical DPS will be asked to use it for extremely large pulls as it has an area of effect. Make sure you have added the limit break button to your hotbar so you can use it when you need to. At the end of the dungeon, there will be a closing cutscene and then an action command to commend another player will appear. If you are in a pre-made party, you will not be able to commend a player you queued with. Be a good adventurer and give someone a big thumbs up though, and then when the chest opens, roll on the loot promptly and then exit the dungeon. Finally, shout out to my patrons who help me afford to do this full time. There is adjusting your layout for better visibility. I'm not going to tell you how to do this, but you can go into your HUD menu and select Duty and adjust how large HUD elements appear and where they appear if you have difficulty seeing boss attacks or your screen is too cluttered or distracting. Definitely spend some time playing with this until it works best for you. There is no one best way, but once you run enough dungeons, you'll find out what helps and what doesn't. If you want a few additional pointers on how to raid and how that might be different from partying, be sure to check out this video here. And Apricotters, if you want any additional information regarding how to play the game or don't know what a particular icon means, I can't recommend the FinalFantasyXIV.com game manual enough. It has loads of very clear pictures and information that even longtime players might not know. What's better is you're getting the information straight from the source, so you'll know it's correct. I'll throw the link into the description below. If it helps anyone become a better, more confident player, I've done my job. Have a great day, gamers, and I'll see you in-game.